Obviously, everyone say AI will replace all jobs. Not true, if you ask me. AI will definitely change how we work and how are we automating some tasks. But it won't replace people entirely. I don't accept. The real future is about humans working with AI, not against it. I feel one of the most common mistakes I see among learners, especially those new to AI, right? They are trying to learn everything at once. They cannot master in all the tools and all the libraries, all the buzzwords in very short amount of time. Whatever they graduate from as an engineers, right? So definitely they are not ready industry products just because they know few algorithms or libraries. So they are just getting started. I also face multiple fake job offers. Some companies said things like, you are selected, but first you need to take this course or pay certain fee. It's not the first application gets selected, definitely no. If you ask me, more than 600 applications where I have applied. So that was my everyday routine. It's not just about building fancy models. It's about, as I mentioned earlier also, how well you can perceive, how well you can analyze your data. Don't just jump straight into tools or API. Instead of that, right, focus on the core concepts. So when we say LLM, Gen AI, it is all the architectures are, hope you know, it is transformer based architecture.
Hi everyone, a big warm welcome back to Chaitanya Data. I'm your host Chaitanya and today's episode is going to be a super exciting and impressive. We are joined by a special guest who is truly making a big difference in the world of technology and artificial intelligence. She's someone who makes tough AI topics easy to understand and connects them with real world use. She doesn't just talk about the new ideas, she builds them, teaches them, and inspires others through them. From powerful AI tools like large language models to generative AI, she knows it all and helps others learn it too. She is also a well-known author. Her book, Transformers and Beyonds, is a great guide for anyone wanting to understand today's most advanced AI system works. But her work doesn't stop there. She has mentored over 5,000 people, helping them build their career in data science and AI. That's 5,000 lives she touched, guiding freshers, students, and professionals through their journeys. She also believes in giving back to the society. She received the TIF Remarkable Award for her work in helping the communities through education and tech. Her passion for sharing knowledge really stand out. She trained the teams at big companies like Walmart, worked with top institutions like IITs, and has made big contribution at JP Morgan Chase. Her journey shows her deep knowledge, adaptability, and love for continued learning. Today we are talk about her experience, learn about generative AI and prompt engineering, and explore how AI is growing in India. We'll also hear her tips on bridging the gap between education and industry, what skills are most needed today, and where AI is heading in the future. So without wasting any more time, it's a huge honor for me to welcome a leader, mentor, author, and true inspiration, Lakshmi ma'am. Hello everyone and welcome to Chaitanya Data, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of data, artificial intelligence, and everything in between. I'm your host Chaitanya, and today we have a truly inspiring guest with us, someone who has made a remarkable contribution to the tech and AI landscapes. She's mentored thousands, received prestigious awards, and is an author of fantastic books. Lakshmi ma'am, it's an absolute honor to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining with us today.
Fine. So much chicken.
Yeah, ma'am, your journey is truly fantastic, and I'm sure our listeners are eager to learn from your experiences. Let's start right from the beginning. So, Lakshmi ma'am, can you take us back to your early days? What sparks your interest in tech and AI?
My journey into AI began during my internship, where I was working in a display and graphics department. So, since if you have checked my academics, so I am coming from an electronics and communication background. I wasn't initially aware of the full scope of AI, I can say. But during that time, I was exposed to intelligence systems, started exploring Python. So it is the way we speak, right? So that is Python. So beginners friendly. Hence, I started learning Python and I was good at mathematics. So I found this domain no doubt exciting. So that's when I realized AI was the right domain for me and decided to pursue it seriously. I believe sometimes one spark is all it takes to ignite lifelong passion. So that's how my journey into AI has been started.
Yes, ma'am. So that's a wonderful origin to story, ma'am. It's always interesting to see what ignites that initial spark. Now every journey has its ups and downs. What was the toughest decision you have made in your professional journey, ma'am?
The toughest decision I made was leaving stable academic job and stepping into corporate. You know, when I started that journey, when I decided that moment, a lot of people told me corporate life is very tough, or as a mother, how will you handle the pressure? But I believed in my capabilities. I had already been working as an online trainer along with my academic role also, and I wanted to take my career to next level. So I made the move, but during this transition, I also faced multiple fake job offers. Some companies said things like, you are selected, but first you need to take this course or pay certain fee. No one asks money. Please don't trust that process. At first, I was confused, if you ask me. It didn't take me for so long to realize that this was a scam. So I want to say this very clearly to anyone who is listening. Never pay for a job. If someone asks you to take a paid course or send money to get hired, it's not real job. It's just a business model. Please don't fall for it. So I take this opportunity to convey this information also, Chaitanya. If you ask me, transition was hard. There were moments of doubt, frustration, and even disappointments. It's not the first application gets selected. Definitely no. If you ask me, more than 600 applications where I have applied. So that was my everyday routine. But it also helped me grow technically, emotionally, mentally, right? And I kept believing in myself, continued learning, and I didn't stop trying. That mindset is what eventually helped me to reach what I am today. So I can clearly say that the journey taught me that doubt can be loud, but belief has to be louder. Even I convey the same thing to everyone.
Yeah, even in my early days, when I was applied to the job, that time also I received those calls and getting they are saying me, you are got selected, you are done the interview process with us, and you just have to buy this course and learn through this course. And once you completed the course, complete us the certificate, and we will send you the joining letter of the our company. And these things I received literally from like companies like IBM. Okay, I know that was the fake little bit. Okay, but I also gone through this situation. After that, I understand how to handle this type of situation. Then after that, the somehow doing on internet, Medium, LinkedIn, I getting the aware posts about that how to cross check like the job roles and this type of stuff.
So those scam folks are intentionally targeting freshers, or else who is in a transition mode from one domain to another domain, or else especially like ladies, because so they can target these kind of folks, right? So obviously they'll be mentally low, emotionally weak by keep on applying, by with the reject lots and lots of rejections and all. So don't trust the process. You should not pay single rupee also, even if you have to transition. And as I mentioned, it clearly mentioned that you have selected if you do this course, you are going, your job will be confirmed. No, such kind of a formalities, none of the corporate companies they follow.
Yes, that sounds like a really tough spot, and it takes a lots of courage to navigate such a distance. So, Lakshmi ma'am, what does your day look like outside of the work? Any hobbies or habits that keep you balanced?
Absolutely. Yeah. Outside of work, I enjoy doing things that help me to stay calm and happy. I love reading and drawing also. I paint with my kids and it helped me to relax, reset. And if you ask me, listening to music is one of my favorite things to do always. Whatever I do, we always keep on listening to music because it instantly changes my mood and give me the energy no matter how the day has been. And I also enjoy cooking, not in a typical chef way though. I don't follow strict recipes and all. I just add a bit of these and that, somehow it turns into something new. So that's how I like to experiment in the kitchen. Other than that, I love traveling and being close to nature. So these small joys help me stay balanced.
Yes. It's great to hear how you maintain that balance, ma'am. It's so important for our well-being. Now you are had the privilege to guiding so many aspiring professionals. You have mentioned over 5,000 learners. What's the most common mistake you see people making in their career?
As per my experience, I feel one of the most common mistakes I see among learners, especially those new to AI, right? They are trying to learn everything at once. So this is going to pressurize them. They cannot master in all the tools and all the libraries, all the buzzwords in very short amount of time. In that journey, right? They don't go into depth in understanding any tools. It may be if you consider pandas, they just concentrate on the tools, TensorFlow, LangChain, without really understanding the underlying concepts. If you ask me, for example, someone might build model using scikit, but if you ask them why they choose a logistic regression over decision tree, for sure they don't have an answer. They struggle to answer. The same thing happens during the time of interviews also. So I always tell focus on why before, right? When instead of asking how, you should be curious and asking why. Meaning, why does this algorithm work? Why this metric is important? Why are we choosing this architecture? Once you understand the reasoning, so the tools and techniques will make a lot more sense, because it is today you might be using one tool. This AI domain itself, every day it is evolving. It's not going to be constant. So over here it is go with the journey, but your foundation should be very much strong. So that's the reason always I recommend slow down, go deeper. And so you have to build strong foundation. So that's what sets you apart in the long run. If you understand why, for sure how becomes so easy in your job.
Yeah, that's a very insightful point, ma'am. Our listeners, especially students and freshers, will find out that extremely valuable. Speaking of giving back, you received the TIF Remarkable Award for Community Services. That's a huge achievement, ma'am. Why is giving back to important to you?
Thank you so much. Giving back has always been very close to my heart. Like it is, I told you when I was transitioning, right? So academia, and I was in edutech also. I was an online trainer parallelly. But when I was transitioning from academia to corporate world, so I was very clear. I need to help many folks, many students by referring. And as I mentioned earlier, also I faced lot of challenges, confusion, fake offers, and lack of proper guidance, right? So what to learn and which are the tools that company is using. So all these confusions I had. So that phase made one thing very clear too. Once I find my way, right, I need to help others to find their ways too. So partly I come from a background where not everything was easily accessible. So I understand the value of guidance. I understand the value of support. Okay, so because it is if any rejection happens, right? So you need someone to support. No, you can do this. So here it is. So even that rejection is a learning process for you. Okay, so whatever the questions they ask and the way you respond, you can like to shape up yourself, just modify where exactly you are lacking. So this motivation support, right, you need from someone. So that's the reason always I give it back. I teach, I share openly, and whether it may be through webinars, community platform, or just it may be a simple LinkedIn post also. If someone asks the question, I start writing, explaining it very clearly in an understandable way. Because I believe if my experience can help even one person feel less stuck, right? Or more confident, then I know I have made the difference. So no doubt to me, giving back isn't an extra activity. I believe like it's a responsibility and joy too. Right? So because I made it as a personal goal to support as many folks as I can. And by mentoring, guiding, and referring them to the right opportunities, right? So which makes then their journey very smooth. If they continue to do with the same, so obviously we don't find like it is people who are struggling to get the right jobs, opportunities. Still, they have a lot of confusions with their skill set, when to apply, how to apply for data. Is it do I need to really apply for data scientist role or machine learning engineers role or data analyst role? So that's the reason. Obviously, guidance, support, folks expect. Hence, giving back is most important. And you know what? Every time I teach, I communicate with folks, right? I feel I learned something new too. So because everybody's mindset is different, perspective of analyzing the data is different, no doubt. So that's the reason, because that is one statement always I believe, because it is nowadays ChatGPT world, right? Code whatever you want. Everything is available within fraction of second. So, but the way you look at your data, right? Analysis, you do that, which is most important. So that's where when I interact with anyone, I feel I'm learning something new. So I request everyone, if you learn something, so again start contributing to the community. So whoever is new joiners, newcomers, or else they might be in a transition mood from one domain to another domain, or as like my academic to corporate world. So for sure, their journey is going to be smooth with the right guidance and the right support.
Yes, that's truly inspiring, ma'am. Your dedication to community service is something we can all learn from. You have also had a very diverse career path working in different sectors. So, ma'am, you have worked in academy, corporate, and edtech. How did you navigate this transition?
I told you already, transition was not smooth. But each phase of my career, right, was a stepping stone. I approached every transition with a clear purpose. So when I was in academia, I was also actively involved in it. It's tech online trainer. I already mentioned, and I used to teach online, conduct training sessions, creating contents for professional. So all these things I was doing. So over here it is, this parallel experience gave me unique perspective on how learning happens both in theory and in practice. I was aware, even though I was not into corporate. I must say, academia gave me a solid foundation because still I believe over here it is without, as an academician, as an assistant professor, I would have never teached anyone. Probably I was in a corporate world, but teaching, so because it in a single session where I handled more than 900 plus learners also, I have handled. So that confidence give me, because since I'm coming from an academics background, right? And anything understanding technical concepts or how to explain them clearly with anyone. So that skill set I learned from academia. And so obviously my EdTech gave me exposure to different learning styles. It may be tools, okay, and so how it is evolving, the needs of industry learners. It's not going to be constant material also they also use. That's what I learned. And later when I transitioned into corporate world, right, I could clearly see how all the knowledge, whatever I learned, can be directly applicable within the company. And I understood parallelly how to align AI solutions with the business needs, which is most important. What we learned and how we can put it in a right formats to meet their expectation or to handle real time data and build models, right? So that actually work in production, which is most important. You might be an extraordinary developer. If you don't productionize, obviously it's going to be waste, right? So I can say in short, academia gave me tech, tech gave me reach, and corporate gave me real world impact. All three together shaped me very well. So which are equally important, no doubt.
Yes, Nandan. That's a fantastic way to look at it, leveraging is across different environments. And now you are at a leading global institution. That is, what skills or experience help you to land your role at JP Morgan Chase?
So, what role, what skill set at JP Morgan Chase? I believe my strong belief in the power of knowledge, especially the kind that comes from deeply understanding data. I have always maintained that in the field of AI, it's not just about building fancy models. It's about, as I mentioned earlier, also how well you can perceive, how well you can analyze your data and extract value from the data. So, which is most important step. I often say it's 80% of the about the data. Like it is, as I mentioned, how do you handle the missing values, outlier detection, and selecting right features. So that pre-processing, or else you can call it as an extra EDA process, exploratory data analysis, right? Which is most important. And building a model, it is only 20%. So because hope you know that it is only 4 lines of code. Build like it is import that model, and over here it is create an instance of an object, fit, predict. 4 lines of code. It's not always changing that 4 lines of code. Okay, this model now, like random forest now, next executes. No, it's not like a playground. You should understand that. So this is the one thing I believe. And obviously, it's not over here. It is technical expertise where I put in front on them. So I brought a way of thinking that focuses on meaningful problem solving, which is most important. So because it is in most of the interviews also, not just in JP Morgan, they give you some problem case study. What is your perception in analyzing? You don't need to give real answers with the real coding. No one is going to ask you coding. Okay, so here it is. What is your approach in solving that problem? So what is your strategy in solving that case study? So which is most important? So I can say my academic background combined with practical experiences in edutech. Okay, so which gave me the depth to explore any complex system. But also you're supposed to have the clarity to translate that into real world. So that holistic knowledge approach is what made me a strong fit for the role that demands both technical knowledge and strategies thinking. So that's how with these strategies and approaches, I have learned over here.
Thank you so much, Lakshmi ma'am, for sharing these both key, like it gives our audience clear idea of what skills are truly valuable in top organization. You have also trained teams at somewhere you are trained teams at Walmart, IITs, and other top institutions. What's the biggest gap between academic and corporate AI trainings?
In my view, biggest gap between academic and corporate AI training lies in expectations. Academia tends to focus heavily on theoretical understanding, mathematical foundations, model architectures, or research papers. No doubt, I'm not saying so, which is valuable, but often it should be needed to have real time experience, right? Real world AI roles. But in the corporate world, the priority is very different. It's about building end to end solutions, providing optimized solutions, and integrating with existing systems and creating tangible business values. These are the most important part. So that's what one key issue I identified. Always, I used to say this also. So, like it is whatever they graduate from as an engineers, right? So definitely they are not ready industry products just because they know few algorithms or libraries. But in reality, as I mentioned, they are not ready products. So they are just getting started. So what they really need is mindset. What sort of mindset they're supposed to have? Continuous learning, adaptability, and problem solving capacity that they supposed to have. So that's why I say students not to know everything when they enter the industry, but they must be ready to learn everything quickly. So that is going to be the most successful journey. And as I have seen in my journey also, right, the most successful ones are those who are curious, hands-on, and eager to apply their knowledge in practical. It may be messy data, or else it may be high impact environments. So the bridging this gap requires, so as I mentioned, from academic to industry, they have to provide project based education, or else providing internship, or it may be through mentorship, not just more coursework, you can say. Instead of that, obviously, with these kind of an internship and mentorship and also, it'll be at least 50 to 70%. So they are going to be ready products to the company. So I can conclude, as I just want to say, you don't have to know everything, as I mentioned, but you must be ready to learn anything. So that gives you the clear path.
That's a crucial point, ma'am. Bridging the gap is so important for the student transitioning into the industry. So, ma'am, which skills do you think are underrated but essential for beginners in the AI/ML field?
First, I can say data cleaning, right? But it's where, as I mentioned, 80% of the work, so important work, because I believe always it is Gigo model. Good input, good output. Garbage input, garbage out. So if your data is messy, incomplete, or biased, no model can save you. So magic is not going to happen. So you know, in AI, it is full of mathematics. So with your data, the ability to explore, clean, transform, right? So which is most important? So that's where over here it is. I feel it is underrated. People concentrate only on algorithm, model. So that is one point. And then second, I can say prompt engineering, right? In the world of GenAI, so this is most important critical skill, you can say, because it's not just about knowing the model. It's about knowing how to talk to it. So which is most important. So that is through prompt engineering over here it is. And so over here it is simultaneously communication is most important, because if your audience can't understand your work, right, it won't get done. So no matter how the accurate your model is, You should understand your audience or else stakeholders. If we consider as an example, every stakeholders are not coming from an AI background. If you keep on using AI technical terminologies, what exactly that they are understanding? If I say my model is biased, my model is overfitting, so they don't get the information. Instead of that, so that's where so you should be a good storyteller. Okay, so the communication is most important. As I mentioned, so like prompt engineering and data cleaning and simultaneously capacity of data storytelling, right? So these are KITS fields are underrated. So but we have to prioritize these domains. These skills you can consider.
That's really true talking, ma'am. Let's shift our focus a bit towards the exciting world of generative AI. It's a field that evolves so rapidly nowadays. So, ma'am, for the students or the freshers, what's the best way to start learning generative AI from scratch?
Begin with fundamentals. Don't just jump straight into tools or API. Instead of that, right, focus on the core concepts like tokenization, embeddings, attention mechanisms. So when we say LLM, Gen AI, it is all the architectures are, hope you know, it is transformer based architecture, right? So here it is, when you pass your text data, first that is tokenization is going to happen. Okay, so you have to understand all these fundamental concepts and how models generate text based on the probabilities, right? So probability is most important. These are the building blocks of Gen AI. So that's what I recommend. Start with favorite fundamentals, and once you understand all the basics, right, start experiment. So we have a platforms like Hugging Face, Google Colab. So these are, if you ask me, amazing to learn to make your hands dirty too. You don't need powerful GPUs to get started. Just run with small scale models, play with prompts, and observe how output changes when you do all these changes, right? And try building some mini projects. It may be text summarization or chatbot demos or story generators. It's not everything no, in your hand like, you can access. We have lots of real time data you'll get from a Kaggle data sets. On GitHub, and always don't think you are the first person where you are going to work on this kind of a projects. You will get lots of community out there so that they are going to help you. And so hopefully the free courses like it is deeplearning.ais. So here it is excellent starting point. If you go through these kind of a courses also, and they strike right balance between theory and application. Even I recommend the same. Always have a balance between theory and real-time practical knowledge. It's not just learning something. You have to implement. And when you implement, right, so you will get to know the end-to-end process. What are the packages needs to be installed? What version to be installed? Which environment you are working on. It may be any development. So Visual Studio, ID you are using, or else over here it is Google Colab, Anaconda, right? So you will get to know. So and if you ask me, lots and lots of open source tutorials you have, GitHub repos, and YouTube walkthroughs also, so that you can make use of it. And remember, most importantly, keep asking always, as I mentioned, why every step is most important, not just knowing how. So that curiosity, right? So I believe which is going to turn beginner into true Gen AI practitioner. No doubt.
Yeah, that's a clear roadmap for anyone looking to dive into the generative AI in today. So, ma'am, large language model or LLM are everywhere these days. But for someone new to the concept, how do you explain the real world impact of large language model LLMs to beginners?
So I'll start with obviously because it is no one is living with phone, right? Without phone for sure, 24 bar 7, I can say. So here it is, the minute you open it, maybe WhatsApp, or is you are trying to send an email to someone. So now auto completion is coming. So how do you feel over here it is auto completions? And instead of just finishing the sentences, right? If you want to write entire essay, or else if you want to write a poem, or it could be translating languages also, or answering questions like human would do, right? All these things, obviously, if you ask, or else it may be like, so tell me who is going to put their photo without filtering, right? So it is all an Instagram reels without that filtering, who is using? It's all AI. And if you consider, for example, over here it is the minute you open any e-commerce platform. So how are you getting recommendation? Or else the if you opening with smart TVs, you're getting recommended list. Even if it is not that. So here it is. When you watch your YouTube videos, right? How are you getting the right recommended links from within even language? How do they understand it? all this AI. So I can say over here it is what exactly happens technically, right? So it is learning the part. It is understanding your behaviors. So we're like over here it is the billions of how these large language models are developed with billions of words from books, websites, and code. So it gets really good at predicting what words are likely to come in the next in the given context. So that's where our LLM comes into picture. So it's truly understanding. So when I say truly understanding, it's not the conversation, emotions. No. So here it is. There also it is purely numerical calculation. So LLM models don't have beef and it is not having real world grounding. Still, you make yourself in the right way, right? That's where we build RAG models and all. So why here it is. Before getting into that, to make them understand, I just give you an example to understand why they are learned. Why these large language models are important. What are the applications of AI? Okay, so because even there might be coming from without the knowledge of AI. So once we give the importance of learning things, right? So that makes you to memorize. And I give an example over here, it is mimicking patterns. Okay, so when you are teaching to a kid, so exactly same thing. It's all about data. So that's how they have trained with huge volumes of data to make LLMs to understand the pattern. And that's how it is inherently gaining the knowledge from the data. These are the things with the real time examples are most important. That's what I believe. And simultaneously, I want to say LLMs are powerful because they are great at generating language, right? It may be text generation or is designing a chatbot. So for every end-to-end task, machine translation, summarization. But remember, they become useful when they're paired with reliable data and smart prompting. These are the most important step in building extraordinary LLM end-to-end solutions.
Yeah, that makes it so much more relatable, ma'am. It's important to connect these complex technologies to our everyday life. From a broader perspective, what specific Gen AI use cases excites you the most, especially here in India? My question is that, ma'am, which generative AI use case excites you the most or still unexplored in India?
So I feel obviously agri-tech because without food we cannot live, right? So if we empower farmers like it is with a tiny localized guidance, okay, in their local languages, which is most important. We cannot expect so to speak in English, right? So in their local language, we can give a guidance to increase the productivity and resilience with respect to any crop, any like it is whatever that they are growing, which is most important. So there, I feel like over here it is we have to develop lots and lots of models, and so still progress has to happen. And simultaneously, recently I was part of Force for Good project also. So like it is automating legal document, which is another domain. Because it is simplifying the journey of justice, right? Which is most important without their mistake also, so people are surviving within the jails and also for a year 2 years and all. We have hopefully you have heard many stories, so that's the reason I feel like it is Gen AI which is much needed platform, so considering domain like legal document automation. And simultaneously, no doubt, as I mentioned, so my main priority helping beginners, students, or is job seekers. So if they are coming from a tier 2 and tier 3 towns, right? So beyond metro cities and all. So there, so we have to develop, concentrate on you, like it is helping them using Gen AI domain. So not only these domains over here it is, but I feel high impact. We have to prioritize and offering solutions, right? So that which is going to help many. So because ultimately, whatever the AI domain we develops, it should be useful to humans. So with that motto, I consider these are the domains with a sustainable innovation, right? So for sure, everyone's life is going to be smooth.
Yeah, those are some fantastic areas I can say with huge potential for our country. So, ma'am, now a term that is general lot of traction is prompt engineering. What's the difference between a good prompt and a great one in prompt engineering?
Okay, I tell you with an example. So for me, good prompt is if I say explain transformers. If you say explain transformer, obviously you will get a general explanation, right? So good prompt. I tell you an example for now. great prompt. So if I say explain transformer architecture in NLP for a technical guidance covering self-attention, positional encoding, and if I say its advantages over RNN, include simple diagram in a text format and avoid code. So what am all I covered in this prompt? I set clear expectation like who the audience is. I mentioned technical and what to include specific components like positional encoding I mentioned. And over here it is what to avoid, no code. And already I mentioned the format like it is text diagram. So I can say, in short, a good prompt. So for sure you will get a response. If I say great prompt, right, you will get the right response. So that's how prompt engineering plays a major role.
And that's a clear distinction, ma'am. It's about getting the most out of these powerful models. This leads to a bigger question about the future of this role. Do you think prompt engineering will still be a separate job role 5 years from now?
Definitely. So skill will still matter after 5 years also, but I feel like job title might change. In the future, we might not call it as a prompt engineering, if you ask me. It could be something like AI interaction designer, right? So that's how the role might be, the kind of word usage might be different, but no doubt ability to talk to AI in the right way, the clear, right context, which is most important. So that's the reason. So as AI start working with not just text, but also images, audio, video, and knowing how to guide it properly, right? So which is an important skill set. As I mentioned, it may not be prompt engineering. We might call it as a AI interaction designer.
That's a very interesting perspective, ma'am, and that's something for our audience to consider as they plan their career. So, ma'am, let's tackle another technical term that often comes up, that is RAG, right? Can you explain RAG, retrieval argument generation, in simple terms with an example?
So I'll just first expand. RAG refers to retrieval augmented generation. You can think like a smart assistant. So which is built with a search engine. When you ask a question, it first looks up what the most relevant information from a set of documents. That itself we call it as a retrieval journey. And it uses the information to write a clear, helpful answer. So which is nothing but a generation. So how many components we have? Retrieval component, generation component. These are the main two components. So if you consider like something you ask within a chat GPT. So like it may be what's our leave policy. So it first find the right documents. So which is as I mentioned, retrieval journey. And then it reads the document and summarizes it for you, right? So that is generation component. So these are the main two components. So that's how where you are going to get well informed information quickly. And always I believe technically, so when your data is frequently changing, right? So you can design that.
That's a brilliant explanation with a great example, ma'am. Thank you for the simplifying such a complex concept. Now, a more practical question from your experience or your point of view. What is harder, selling AI to business leaders or debugging a model?
Honestly, for me, selling AI is harder because it is debunking a model, right? It might be tricky, but at least it's logical. You run tests, trace the issue, and you can fix it. But selling AI to business leaders, that's whole different game. You have to build a trust and explain complex technical terminologies in simple terms, and you have to showcase like clear business values and make sure so that it aligns with their goals, their expectation it has to meet. It takes mix of business and then technical skills too. So I don't consider it's easy job. It's very tough.
That's the very relatable answer for anyone in the tech field, I think so. Tools are also a big part of the AI ecosystem, ma'am. What role do tools like LangChain and the Hugging Face plays in building AI workflows?
No doubt it is making so much easier because a LangChain helps you to connect things like prompts, memory, tools, and now it is agentic world agents too. So you can build smart apps like chatbots or AI co-pilots, right? Step by step. And if you ask me related to Hugging Face, on the other hand, it gives you access to tons of pre-trained models. Now, right now, you can open and you can observe 17 lakh models you have. And you can take that model, if you want to do predictions, so that is also fine. Or else if you want to do fine tuning based on your expectation, right? So you can make use of these tools. So if I say put them together, you get a powerful setup for creating any real world Gen AI system without starting from scratch. So most powerful tools.
It definitely sounds like a essential tool for anyone working with artificial intelligence. So, ma'am, with AI getting so good at generating codes, a common question arises in everyone's mind, mostly the freshers or the aspirants. Okay, so how important is coding in Gen AI era, especially with tools that can generate code?
So if you ask me, coding is still super important in the Gen AI era. Yesterday, if you observe LinkedIn post, also I posted. If we keep on use AI tools in generating code on all right, we forget our skills. So no lie. Because it is, you know what, AI can help with respect to writing code and all. But still, you should understand, right, what exactly this code does. If something breaks, covering all the negative scenarios and meeting your expectations. So if you want to tweak or else improving the models, if you have to do that without coding knowledge, how can you perform improvisation? So definitely you're supposed to have solid coding skills. Okay, so because you can think of coding is as like a creative superpower. So right. So because it lets you even turn any ideas, it is going to turn your ideas into real working AI solutions. So, which is the most super skill set you're supposed to have to master in this domain. But it is very easy. Don't worry because Python is beginner's language. As I started the conversation, you can master.
Yeah, because nowadays the beginner also and the freshers, they look into the shortcut type. If I just do copy paste code, is that work or not work?
Right.
Yes, that's a great way to put it, ma'am. It's about being an architect, not just a builder. Okay. So when it comes to the LLMs, we often hear about fine tuning versus using pre-trained models. So, ma'am, my question is that fine tuning versus pre-trained LLMs, when should we choose one or the other?
If you ask me, choosing it depends on your needs. Like, for example, if you're working on a general use case, it may be drafting emails or question and answering. So I recommend so go ahead with using pre-trained LLM. So which works great and it saves your time too. But if you are dealing with specific domain-oriented data, like it may be finance domain, legal domain, or any healthcare domain data, right? So now tone matters. The data domain, so it varies from domain to domain. And obviously, accuracy is most important. Simultaneous complaints really matter over here it is. So then fine tuning is the better choice. So because over here it is fine tuning when we say it is a training job. So your model is looking at your domain oriented data. Right. So now the models understand your language, understand your context better. So in that case, fine tuning. So I can conclude, I recommend use pre-trained models when speed matters, fine tuning when precision matters.
That's a very helpful guideline for making that crucial decision. So, ma'am, your Medium post on running LLMs on GPUs got a lot of attention. It addressed a very practical problem for many. So, ma'am, what's your top for optimizing performance in low resources setting?
If you are running LLMs on might be CPUs, right? So I can say like keep it light and efficient. So you can make use of model compression techniques or else use context models like 4-bit or 8-bit to reduce the size. Or else, for sure, you can go ahead with the lightweight models, lightweight architectures, I can say. 5.4 mini, Microsoft recently that they have released 2 months before. So very weight models, 5.4 mini, 5.4 multi-model. Or else you can go ahead with the DistillBert. So these are the models you can make use of. And so to speed up the deployments also, right? You can try with tools like ONNX, JJUF. So by Heritage, these are the tools you can make use of it. And while building an architecture also, I recommend batch processing. So it that is also going to speed up. So with all these techniques, so for sure I can feel so optimization is going to happen. And with this optimization, you can run with CPUs also.
That's the amazing of a tip for anyone working with a limited resources. So, ma'am, many beginners wonder about the certification. Are certification like AWS, ML specialist really worth it for beginner?
Yes, they are definitely worth it, especially if you are new to the field or switching careers, right? Important. But AWS certifications give you structured learning path and a solid foundation. They show you what's important and help you to speak in AI language. But keep one thing in mind, certifications are not just the beginning. It is not only it is step to get into company. No. So people ask the same question over here. It is this the certification landed over here? It is no, which is just the beginning. The real learning happens when you start building the projects and applying what you have learned in real time scenarios, right? So that helps you a lot. But to gain the knowledge and all, so for sure, to prove over here it is, as I mentioned at the initial journey, it is good to have certifications. But not only the certifications help you in your journey, the practical thinking, so building models or building projects, which is most important.
Okay, so ma'am, let's move towards the AI in India and future outlook. Let's now focus on the Indian context. Our country has its unique set of challenges and opportunities when it comes to the AI, artificial intelligence. What unique challenges do Indian startups or students face when working with generative AI compared to the global players? What do you think?
I feel like it is limited access to GPUs, then obviously affordable cloud credits if they want to perform fine tuning, which is going to be very tough without GPU and all. And so simultaneously high quality, localized data set, especially in getting in regional languages, right, which is very hard. So again, without the data, so model performance is going to be poor. And like it is, we have the data, GPU and all. Even after building, right, something great, monetizing AI product in a price sensitive market, right? So that again, that is going to be very difficult. So these are the challenges. So I can say, despite this, innovation potential is huge, but especially when solutions are tailored to India's diverse needs. So we need, I feel like, support is needed with respect to infra, with respect to kind of data. Okay, and over here it is lot of access. So this permission, funding and all, if they get for sure, Indian students and startups, they can do lot of amazing works in AI domain. No doubt.
Those are valid points, ma'am. We definitely need to address those to unlock our full potential. When it comes to education, there is often a debate about the focus for our universities. Should Indian universities focus more on AI researches or building industry-ready skills?
Ideally, both are important, right? So you mentioned Indian university or research or else industry skills. So for me, both are important. But right now, Indian universities, I feel, need to focus on real world industry skills. So because as I mentioned, students benefit most from hands-on practical learning through industry projects, internships, capstone projects to tackle any real-time problem, which is most important. So, but building strong research culture also matters. You need to have some gap, right? So, in identifying some gap. So, that is happening through research. So, and simultaneously, without practical exposure, how can they solve the problems, even though identifying the gap? So, that's where I feel graduates often struggle to apply what they have learned. So, now I feel it's time to balance theory with experience, which is most important. So I consider both are important skill set, no doubt.
A balanced approach certainly seems to be the key there. And speaking of this broader landscape, ma'am, there is a lot of discussion about the regulations. Do you think India should introduce stricter regulations for the open source LLMs?
Yes, but approach needs to be thoughtful. Okay, so because India should focus on safe transparency and simultaneously accountability when it comes to open source LLMs. But that doesn't mean strict bans. Okay, so over here it is, when I say yes, there is a difference with respect to regulation. So it's not going to be for sure strict bans. I can see better we have to come up with other regulations where developers, so like it is, or else creating a sandbox model kind of a thing, platforms. So developers can experiment and build responsibly within clear guidance, right? So which is most important. So it's a kind of encouraging innovators also and avoiding any risk also. So that's how, if we get a support from the Indian government and creating platforms, and also here it is in other way, they are going to create opportunities and educating also everyone, so will get the knowledge of AI.
That's a very important perspective, ma'am. It's a complex issue with many angles, I think so. Now let's talk about our fantastic book. Tell us about your book, Transformers and Beyond. What inspired you to write it?
Transformer and Beyond is a practical hands-on guide for everyone who are interested in building real-world GenAI solutions, right? Because it starts with foundations and explaining how transformer work, and that book walks you through the full journey from understanding attention mechanism, language modeling, and deploying cutting edge systems. And where tools I have used LangChain. And I have covered like RAG also. So agentic frameworks, including fine tuning, everything. So which is 10 different chapters and then including the projects, right? So which gives you complete knowledge related to GenAI. And if you ask me what inspired me to write, so obviously the gap, whatever I've noticed. So there are plenty of books so that explain theory behind AI. And there are many blog posts or tutorials that show bits and pieces, but few resources really connect the dots. Okay, so when I started learning Gen AI, I was finding it very difficult. So I know how many books I read, how many blogs over here it is to gain the knowledge, to understand that clearly, mathematical story behind that, how exactly it works. Right, so that's the reason. So, as I mentioned, clear gap only. So, hence, I covered over here it is from core concepts to all the way to production ready Gen AI applications that I wanted to bridge that gap. So, the book is built on everything I have learned over the years. So, from building LLMs, fine tuning, deploying LLMs, and working with multi-model AI. So, it covers with code examples also. So, like over here, it is a balance book between theoretical and then practical concept. My goal was very simple, if you ask me, to make GenAI more approachable in an understandable way with practical knowledge. And so, focusing on productions. So, for especially developers, researchers, and startups, right, in emerging tech ecosystems like India. So, for them, I have definitely written. And this book is the resource I wish I had when I started. So otherwise, I would have referred so many books and blogs. Now I hope it helps someone else get further faster. Okay, within this Gen AI domain.
That's wonderful, ma'am. It sounds like much needed resources. For someone just picking up your book, prefers a Gen AI enthusiast, which chapter or idea should every Gen AI enthusiast read first from a book?
Diving into Gen AI, I really want to mention before getting into chapters. So, like, it is all my experiences. So, as a practitioner, what is the mistake we do that, right? So, all these things as a tip, as a note point of view, I have highlighted in the book. So, which is going to smooth your journey. Coming back to your question, so since you asked with respect to chapters, so I have chapter 2, which is related to completely in understanding transformer architecture. So that is very much simplify understanding how transformer really work without getting lost in related to mathematical explanation. It's not too many mathematical, but over here it is to make you understand transformer architecture, right? It is going to cover in chapter 2. And if you ask prompt engineering, one chapter is there, and another chapter which is related to vector databases. Okay, so over here it is, as I mentioned earlier, all the models understand only numerical data. But how to build smart searchable system, right? So which combines the retrieval and then generation journey. So that another chapter is there. And another chapter which is covering fine tuning, LLMs, LoRa, Clora. Okay, and with this hands-on also in every chapter. And as I mentioned, deployment is also covered over here at least, including agentic frameworks, LangChain, importance of LangChain. What are the components where it is going to cover? So all the chapters, if you ask me, where it is focusing all practical skills where every Gen AI developer needs, from architecture to till fine tuning with respect to real world deployments where I covered. And so I started from an architecture explaining auto encoder. So where it is consisting of encoder decoder. From that point to till as I mentioned. So over here it is line chain, fine tuning, RAG, vector database, prompt engineering, and I have included projects too simultaneously in deployments. And one more interesting chapter, it is related to compliance, regulations, okay, ethics, the government laws. If they are a manager, so for sure that chapter is going to help them a lot. So it is, I can say, package of everything. Chaitanya.
Yeah, that's a very helpful guidance for someone diving into your book. As someone who's seen the AI landscape evolve, you must have seen your share or hype. Okay. What's one big AI hype you wish would just go away?
Obviously, everyone say AI will replace all jobs. So this is the one hype I have seen. It's not true, if you ask me. AI will definitely change how we work and how are we automating some tasks. But it won't replace people entirely. I don't accept. The real future is about humans working with AI, not against it. So I feel it's a partnership. So where AI handles repetitive stuffs and humans bring the creativity. So it's a balance between AI and then humans. If you have to take decision, judgment, empathy, so that which is going to come from humans as only. I don't feel models or else AI is not brilliant than us. Okay, so we have defined, so we can rule that AI. But simultaneously, I make use of this platform in conveying an information like you have to update with your skill set. So if your work is every day, if you go log in and if it is going to be like manual testing, if you are doing the same operations, right? So hopefully you have seen different domains like technologies like automation, RPA developers, all these things. So which is static, if it is repetitive. But now AI can automate the work, even the work is dynamic also. So think about this, start updating yourselves. Learning is the only one solution over here it is. As I mentioned, it's not going to replace people, but for sure it is going to replace all the automations. So because it is, even if I say I work, I cannot work for 24 bar 7, right? Also, in those kind of areas and all, for sure, people are not going to update if they are not ready with the mindset in unlearning to relearn, right, Chaitanya? So for 10 the statements, so the high whatever I said, AI will replace jobs or else humans, right? So which is going to be true state. So but without creativity, this domain doesn't exist. Okay, so we are not going to lose our jobs. AI is not going to replace humans, but humans are going to work with AI, not against it.
That's a very honest answer, ma'am. It's good to have a grounded perspective, I can say. So finally, ma'am, let's end with a powerful message. If you had a giant billboard on MG Road in Bangalore, a place where so many data aspirants pass by every day, what message would you put on it for all the data aspirants?
Master the basics. Okay, so your foundation should be strong. Build real things. Show your work, share your journey, and AI future belongs to people who take action. So be one of that is what I recommend.
Yes. Before conclude, I had made some rapid fire questions for you. So the first question is that Gen AI or traditional ML,
Gen AI,
Hugging Face or LangChain,
LangChain.
prompt engineering or fine tuning,
So for me, prompt engineering first,
GitHub or Kaggle.
GitHub.
So ma'am, Gen AI in education, blessing or disaster,
No, it's a blessing.
teaching or industry,
Industry,
remote work or on-site work.
on-site,
One thing you still struggle with at work.
traffic, going to office,
How many unread emails right now in your inbox?
probably 500 plus.
How many hours do you actually work daily?
AI work like it is more than 13 hours for sure.
First word that comes to mind for startup.
Innovation.
Work from home productivity level out of 10.
7 to 8.
If not AI, then what career?
Mathematician, teaching, if not AI, right? So, as I mentioned, I'm good at mathematics. So, obviously, I would have become a mathematician, teacher, or lecturer.
Have you ever Googled yourself?
Yes,
The last question is Google Bard or ChatGPT?
ChatGPT.
Lakshmi ma'am, that is such a empowering message and perfect way to end this incredible conversation. Your insights today from your personal journey to the intricacies of generative AI and the Indian ecosystem that's been invaluable. Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing your wisdom, your time, and your passion with us.
Thank you so much, Chetan.
And that's bring us to the end of another episode of Chaitanya Data. Huge thanks to you, Lakshmi ma'am, for being such a prominent guest, and to all our listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you learned a lot of, feel inspired to continue our journey in data and AI. Thank you so much, ma'am, once again. I hope you like this podcast. Please let me know in the comment which guests you would like to see on the podcast and any specific topics you would like us to discuss with them. I will try to bring those guests and ask your questions so you will get more helpful information. Before you go, share this episode with someone. It might really help because one conversation can change person's life and give them idea and new direction. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. See you in next video.